Hello traders, this is Blake Morrow and you're listening to the week ahead video for August 12th, 2018. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. And, obviously before I get to the markets, I just need to say if you haven't registered for ForexAnalytix to try us out, please do so. It's only $1 for 10 days. All you got to do is click right in the middle here where it says sign up today. And once you sign up, you can download the mobile application. You can get it via the Apple Store, Google Play Store. You can download the iPad or tablet apps. And this way you have all of our analysis and notifications right at your fingertips, especially when we launch or we release like new analysis or patterns in play. You can see them come right to your right to the palm of your hand. So make sure you do so. All right, got that out of the way. Let's talk about this week. There's actually some really big developments in the currency market. But before I get to the majors, I have to obviously talk about a currency that we don't typically cover, which is the Turkish lira. And this is a big deal because it has caused a lot of ruckus in the FX market. One of the reasons why the euro turned decisively lower on Friday and broke through its support at 115 and change is because of the fear that that European banks might have exposure or overexposed to Turkish banks or the Turkish economy, and that has led to the euro dollar selling. And whether you're in the camp that you think that this is a little overdone or there's possibly more, the fact of the matter is we've seen a very explosive move. I mean, when you take a currency, let's just take a really quick look from a percentage standpoint. Let's talk about the beginning of this year. So this would be right around January 1st. Okay, take what has happened in the US dollar Turkish lira here. We have moved basically it's an 80% move in the US dollar versus Turkish lira since the beginning of the year. Okay, that's a big move. I mean, you basically have a currency that has almost lost half of its value in a year. I mean, that's I say a year. It's actually in 8 months. That's pretty amazing. And obviously, it's creating some volatility in the currency market. Now, if you're trying to figure out what's going to cause a reversal, and by the way, I do think one is probably coming soon. There's probably going to be central bank activity, even though I can't pronounce his name right, Erdogan, even though he doesn't believe in higher rates to combat the currency moves and says they don't need they just need God on their side. Some of the comments like that are pretty far out there, but yeah, that's what he said. The central bank may have to intervene soon, and if we see some rate hikes and maybe some IMF intervention or the US pastors release, we might actually see a reversal in the Turkish lira. I think that's going to be key to watch for, and I think it's something that needs to be on every trader's screen going into next week, because that might kickstart a reversal in what you've seen in the dollar and maybe a little bit of risk appetite, if you will, if you see a reversal of it. Let's just, technically speaking, when you're talking about the lira, let's also keep in mind that this is not the most extended relative strength has been on this particular currency. I mean, if you look, relative strength has been actually slightly more exaggerated in the past. Now we're going to reach these historically high levels probably going into next week. We may trade above 7 in the US dollar Turkish lira. When we close at our highs like this, unless something substantial happens over the weekend, which at the time of this video nothing has. Now that doesn't mean something can't happen as we get closer to the FX open. I'm just saying as of right at this moment in time, if we start to see, we might have some developments that turn the Turkish lira at any moment. But for right now, I mean, if the market opened right at this very second in time on Sunday, we'd probably be moving higher. When you get this exaggerated move and you don't have a reversal, chances are there's going to be more upside in this particular case moving forward. There has to be some sort of catalyst that drives us, unless we get a capitulation move where you see, you know, which could happen, guys. Don't, you know, look at these charts. I mean, this is, you know, I'm giving you kind of a realistic, you know, expectations here. We could see a move up like this, you know, all the way to, let's say, 8.5, and then get a quick reversal by the end of the day, and then that would be your capitulation, if you will, and then you can start looking for some sort of reversal. It can happen, but my fear is if we continue to see moves like this, then it's going to bleed over into the rest of the currency market, and that takes us over to the euro dollar. Let's take a look at the euro and understand that the euro dollar is breaking lower out of this triangle. It's been out of a, you know, you can say it's a triangle range. This triangle here, you know, the extension could lead. I mean, if you take the, you know, this is like 118.50 all the way down to 115 and change, 15.20. That 300 and, you know, roughly 30 pip move. I mean, it comes out of the 116.50 level. That takes us all the way down towards, you know, I mean, we could go all the way down to 113 before we bounce, and that's what you see here. And maybe that's the retest of this this previous broken channel. That is possible. It's not impossible at this point, especially if you think about the Turkish lira. If it moves another, you know, full cent higher in the US dollar, Turkish lira, or dollar higher, excuse me, in the exchange rate, that could very easily create that type of movement. Now, I have to stop here for a moment when I'm talking about the euro, and let me just mention that the daily sentiment index, and by the way, the daily sentiment index is a subscription that we as a company, we get. It's a sentiment reading, and when they get extreme, you have to start thinking more contrarian. Well, the dollar index is registering a 94, and that is unheard of. I mean, you don't, very rarely do you see readings above 90, sometimes 90, 91, 92. I actually don't remember one being, in the FX market, being at the 94 range over the last several years. Now, I may be wrong. You know, I'm just off the top of my head. It is a very, very high reading, which means we are getting very exaggerated, or the market is a little too bullish, where we could start, you know, potentially looking for reversals. Flip side to that is the euro daily sentiment index was at 16, which you know, you drop below 10 and then it gets pretty extreme as well. Speaking of extreme, you can look over at the cable. The cable registered a 7 2 days in a row, and in my opinion, the pound, and if you look at the pound and how it's reacting against other currencies, the pound is actually strengthening against other crosses. So like the euro pound is dropping, the pound Aussie is bouncing, the pound New Zealand is bouncing. So the pound dollar might be ripe for some sort of bounce pretty soon. We closed below a pretty key technical level here. This is the 618 retracement from post-Brexit lows all the way to the highs. We had this double top. You guys remember that. If go back and listen earlier this summer when we had the breakdown of the double top, we thought we were come down. We completed that, and we've got more bang for our buck out of that move than I personally expected. But we are below the 618, which is bearish, but you know, give or take 100 pips here, we could very easily bounce right back going into the beginning of next week. So I would caution you about being too bearish here. I tried to buy the cable, the pound dollar, this last week. I did get stopped out for a loss. And for those of you that are familiar with the laptop toss, I'm going to be updating that video this fall, because the cable is still a son of a gun to trade. I'll tell you, I could have used different words there. Yes, I could have, and in my head I was using different words. But anyway, the pound, you gotta be on the lookout for a possible bounce. But look at all the bearish signs that we're getting in a lot of these different types of analysis. For those of you that don't use ForexAnalytix normally, M is macro, C is candlestick, BT is basic technical, H is harmonic analysis, EW is Elliott wave. And when all these different type of analysis are lining up the same, that should be alerting you that you should start looking at a particular currency pair if you haven't been already, and then maybe start paying a little closer attention. Now, as far as the Aussie goes, let's talk about that for a second. The Aussie dollar, and this is a weekly chart. We closed at the lows of our week. We closed below this range low that we had been forming, and everything you look at is extremely bullish the dollar, minus the dollar yen, but that's a different story. Against a lot of these major currencies, the dollar really ended on a strong note. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to continue throughout the midweek. I think at the beginning of the trading week, we can see continued strength in the dollar, but with that very strong sentiment index reading, you have to start being a little careful. Okay, there are some currencies that are lagging, and the dollar Canadian. And by the way, if you were listening to last week's week ahead video, I'm a little upset at myself how I traded the dollar Canadian, but I was looking for a move to 129.50. And we got to move to 129.60. It missed my order by literally a few pips, and I didn't chase it because I try not to chase, but we bounced where I thought we were going to bounce. For those of you that you traded the US dollar Mexican peso, we had a really nice move out of a descending wedge. That was beautiful, and I personally traded that the US dollar Mexican peso early in the week. Or excuse me, early in the week. Let me go back here. It was midweek, I believe. I think on Wednesday or Thursday when we popped out of it. It was just an intraday trade, but it was it was nice, and I was glad I caught some of that because I missed the Canadian currency. But I think really the move that you're going to see in the currency market is going to be led by the lira, and whether it continues, I can't imagine that's going to continue much further. But if it does, and we don't back off of this rally does, let's just imagine, and I'm just going to draw some smaller lines here. Let's just imagine, the next Monday we look like this, Tuesday we look like this. Imagine these are green, or whatever. Wednesday we're like this. Well, then my opinion is if we continue to see further gains and just maybe slowing in the US dollar Turkish lira, because nothing's changed from the IMF's point of view, central bank's point of view, negotiations between Turkey and the US continue to banter back and forth, but no progress is made on the pastor being released, or tariffs continue. Whatever the case may be, if this move continues in the US dollar Turkish lira, then you have to start looking at, like, I'm just going to pull up the live charts here. The S&P, look, we have created a lower high, and on a weekly basis, that's a big deal, especially if we, this right here, you can see this is a long upper shadow doji, okay, which means that the risk here is that we, actually move lower from here, okay, so and maybe set up an evening star or something like that. If we move lower in risk, here's the Dow. The Dow has been really lacking on this breakout. You have probably a lot of people that are long on this breakout. It's not really working out. The Nasdaq is stalling a little bit here too. If you see risk reverse, the question is, how's the FX market going to respond to it? But and the answer is, right now the dollar is being bought currently, and the dollar is being bought on risk aversion. Will that continue? It's going to be a really interesting week next week, despite it being summer. At least it's keeping a little bit more lively in the summer than we're used to. Just a few things happen this next week. We have on Tuesday, average earnings index for the UK. It's also a European holiday actually on Wednesday as well. In France and Italy have their banks actually observe this holiday as well. Wednesday, we have UK inflation data. We have retail sales out of the US. We have employment data out of Australia Wednesday night or Thursday morning in Australia. On Thursday, we have UK retail sales. And then on Friday, we have Canadian CPI. And guys and gals, I'm trying to keep these videos a little shorter than I have been in the past. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, click that thumbs up, and share this video too with all your other trader friends and followers on Twitter. I'd really appreciate it, and our team would really appreciate it. And the thumbs up, really makes us feel good about making these videos each and every week for you. All right, guys and gals, my name is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for listening in, and good luck next week. We'll talk to you soon.